Welcome to 31 Days of Horror, the Toronto After Dark edition, day 1. I've had a few drinks at this point, so if I'm slurring any of my words, it's because I'm possessed by booze. Tasty, tasty booze. So, tonight had 2 movies. The first one being the opening gala, and that is We Are What We Are from director Jim Mickle, who, oddly enough, had a film in Toronto After Dark, I think it was 2006, thereabouts, give or take a year. A little low-budget zombie film called Mulberry Street. And oddly enough, the film Mulberry Street was the opening gala that year. So this is the first ever director to have 2 opening galas in the festival. And you know what? That's something to be said. The film is technically, I guess, a remake. There is another film of similar name and subject matter, but this version of it, this North American version, I guess you could say, is quite different. There is a lot of things that have been changed, so as to make it at least seem like a different movie, for those who have seen the other film of such name. But the film is about a family, the Parkers, who are somewhat recluse, and set in very you might say old religious ways. When the film starts out, I kind of got the impression that they might have been hardcore devout Christians, and in a sense they are, but this film goes a little bit beyond that, and it's sort of it's a family drama mixed in with a very, very terrifying subject, which is hinted at throughout, and then eventually revealed, and then builds to a crazy climax. The film, well acted throughout. I particularly like the 2 ladies who played the girls of the family. That would be Julia Garner as Rose Parker, 14 years old roughly, and then there was Amber Childers as Iris Parker. I'd say she's probably more in the 17 years old range. Both are very, very, very good in their roles, and are essentially the center around which the film is kind of based. It is their journey as such. But yes, if you get a chance to see We Are What We Are, I definitely recommend doing so. It's a little bit on the slower side, but it isn't quite a slow burn. It's well paced and it's constant, which is nice until you get to the end. The end climax is somewhat out of character, but at the same time, I didn't mind it at all. See, I'm trying not to give away too much, because that, as obvious as some of the things are in this film, it's better off not knowing anything and just watching it than it would be to know anything about it. So it's currently doing the festival circuit, but I'm sure it will eventually come out, maybe not theatrically, but at least on video. So if you don't have a festival playing near you that has picked up this film, and if it doesn't go theatrical, then I do recommend eventually hunting it down on video. The second film I caught was called Bounty Killer, from director Henry Saine. Now, this was a vastly different film comparatively, and the only real thing that the two films had in common was that both of these directors have had films previously at Toronto After Dark. I'm trying to think. I think it was 2014. So maybe about 5 years ago. Saine had a film called The Last Lovecraft. Obviously a Lovecraftian, Cthulhu actually esque film, which was quite. I enjoyed it quite a lot. It was very, very fun, and very fun would be how I would describe Bounty Killer. There is no real way to go into detail on this film because there's just so much going on. It is very much an action film. It's kind of a little bit of Mad Max to it. It's got a little bit. There's a character that's very much patterned after Zach Galifianakis and his comedy, at least in my opinion. But yeah, it's quite a crazy ride, and basically what has happened is the government's capitulated to corporations, and the corporations, instead of trying to win through dollars, basically built their own armies and fought each other and eventually destroyed all mankind and left us in, created an apocalypse of sorts. And after that, there was sort of a group of people came together and said, we're going to rebuild society, and they put bounties on all of these corporate folks. Anybody who was doing white-collar crime, essentially, was now given the death penalty. And instead of being, dead or alive, such as a bounty hunter would have, these are bounty killers. So they don't want any of these guys coming back alive. It's essentially, when you find them, kill them, bring us the body, and we'll pay you. So there's a lot of crazy action going on in the film. It's actually quite... it's a lot of fun. It's clearly, low budget and such, but they managed to do a lot with what they had, and compared to something like, say, The Asylum or Full Moon or any of those who tend to work on the same scale, this is well beyond that, and as such, very, very entertaining. It's odd. When I was watching it, I had the sense that it would be a great, like a cartoon. It would make for a great cartoon. And the director said it originally started out as like a comic or an animated piece, and then eventually turned into a short film. And from the short film, they moved into a feature film. So it's had multiple different versions of the story going on. So that being said, there's a lot of animated portions in the film, a lot of action, a lot of gore, like a lot of gore. And I would say it's more of an action thriller than anything, but thanks to the gratuitous gore factor of the film, I'm going to lump it into the horror category and count it. Simply because the gore is it's way over the top. It is crazy amounts, and not just your regular gunshots, blood spurt type thing, but no, there's some crazy gore going on, cutting in half guts everywhere type gore, which you just don't get in your standard action film or thriller. And so, with that being said, I'm going to lump it into the horror category. It's definitely an action horror. You don't get too many of those. And it doesn't really try and instill any fear or dread, but because of the exploitation nature, I guess you could say, of the film, I'm going to allow it to count for my 31 Days of Horror. So, that concludes day 1 of Toronto After Dark, and I need to get to bed. So I bid you adieu, and good night. Until next time.